probably necessary, in my opinion, without somebody explaining to me better why it has to be the way it's shown.
Matt, I think you and I did have a discussion, and I think my comment was, the drawing you see in front of you has a width that is flat across the entire path for a width that is probably greater than necessary to provide the trail. It's always going to be a trail. It's not going to be a vehicular roadway. So I think to address your concerns, I would immediately say that the topo, the cut along the length of the trail would not change, but across the width of the trail, we would reduce the amount that's level and begin to go back to the existing grade at a point right at the edge of the path. And I think that would mitigate impact. Our goal was never to do tree clearing or to create a significant impact in the buffer area. Our goal was always just to get the organic material off of the current trail and replace it with non-organic walkable material. So nothing you've said is inconsistent with our objectives. So if it's acceptable to the Conservation Commission, I would like to suggest that SiteWorks Plus, who has worked with the town quite a bit, would be required to have Concom come out before they do any excavation of the organic material and just set the meets and bounds for the site, limit of work. And I'm very comfortable if the limit of work is the edge of the existing roadway, which in essence is twice as wide as the path needs to be. So I think we can easily accommodate your recommendations on the west side. On the east side, I think if you look, there's actually been quite a bit of disturbance from Route 85 already, and I'm not sure any work on that side would be detrimental to the buffer zone. But again, I'm just speaking I'm a lay person. I'm not on the west side where the cursor is, we would absolutely agree to limit any work to the edge of the existing roadway. I think that's consistent with what Mr. Burrell is requesting and what we discussed.
Okay, I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. Matt, do you agree, or do you think we need
Yeah, I think as long as the commission is fine, having that special condition in there, and it sounds like the contractor is well experienced in working with the town on these types of projects. I just always get nervous of approving a plan that shows one thing with the expectation of something else, because if whatever, some communication gets messed up and the contractor says, "Oh, I'm putting the erosion controls where they belong and the tree clearer is coming in." I'm sure that won't happen on this project, but that's sort of the worst case scenario. That is always my.
Yeah, and Mr. Lapointe, you represent the contractor, correct?
I'm with Beals and Thomas.
Oh, it's okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. All right.
No, the contractor is not on the call tonight, to my knowledge. But Dave's firm did the engineering to provide us with this drawing. So.
Okay. Great. I think you know where we're coming from. Let me open it up to comments, questions from the commission members.
Through the chair, I just have a quick comment, I suppose.
Yes.
As long as Matt is a part of overseeing the project, I feel comfortable with everything. I think Matt's question had to do with regrading. A similar question I have is what to do with the material that's removed. And I assume if Matt's there, it won't be just thrown to the side or anything, which is probably how I would make a path in my backyard. But it's removed properly, that it's not thrown into the wetland or anything like that. Not just the regrading, but the removal of stuff. But that was my only other thought.
That's a good point, Ted. I mean, so the organic material that's being removed from the path, Mr. Rohan, what's the,
That's an
And-
excellent point. We did not specify the disposition of the removed material, but I'm perfectly comfortable either providing an order of conditions or direction to Siteworks Plus that all removed material has got to be moved off site. I don't have a problem with that. If I don't think his expectation was he was going to dump it to the side. He's been to the site. He understands that, we're working near a buffer zone. So I don't think that should be a problem, but I understand why the Concom would want that in writing. So I'll make sure that before he is directed to proceed, that he understands the organic material has to be removed from the site and disposed of.
okay, great, thank you.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, that raises a question in my mind, which is the stockpiling. So that's great. Any spoils are going to go off-site, but what's going to be the plan for stockpiling new material and that material? It's got to be in the path, right? And all work's going to be done as much as possible in dry weather, I assume.
Hey, Jim, if I could answer that, I talked to John Westerling, DPW chair. He is fine with removing additional guardrails on the intersection of the trail and Route 85, either by DPW or by the contractor. If he represents it, he can return it undamaged. And we would stockpile at the very top of the site, right at the intersection of Route 85 and the trail. So
Okay.
that's an acceptable
Good.
condition.
And I would
All right.
imagine,
Thank you, Michael.
that it's not going to be stockpiled for a significant period of time, that it will
No.
be. Whoever has the baby crying in the back, can you please mute your phone? Thank you. I would imagine it's not going to be stockpiled there for a long period of time. That'll be used and applied fairly quickly.
Yeah, I don't think this is a significant project in terms of quantities. So I don't anticipate large amounts being held for any long period of time, but it is possible that, deliveries are on the morning and the work's in the afternoon, or could even be a day following. So it's a good suggestion that we identify where material is stockpiled.
Okay. All right, let me open it up to questions from the public. And let me just scroll through here, see if anyone has their hand raised. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Okay. All right, so I think the conditions that we talked about were the means and methods for the replacement or relocation of the stones will be provided to the commission before that work takes place. You'll provide a week advance notice prior to the work being conducted to the commission, so Matt can schedule his time to be out there to meet with the contractor and discuss the grading portion.
Yes.
The disposition of the soils will be taken off site. The organic material that's moved off the path, and then you'll identify the stockpile location to the commission staff prior to the work being conducted. Does that sound like I captured what we talked about?
Yeah, for order and conditions, so I'll submit in writing a plan to move the blocks, 1 week advance notice for Matt to confirm the limit of work in actual grading, organic material. And I need to record that the contractor will remove organic material off site, and that the stockpile location is as we discussed.
Great. Okay. I think we're on the same page.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm, yeah, that I got it down right. Okay.
All right, if I can get a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability for this project with the conditions stated.
Ted, so
So
moved.
moved.
All right, Ted made the motion. Jim, second.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll do the roll call. Janine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, great. All right, thank you, Mr. Rohan. Good
Thank
luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Ristow, 21 Winter Street. This is a notice of intent for an addition and a driveway. Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 22nd at 7:00 PM, either virtually online or at the Town Hall, 18 Main Street, to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Ann Ristow to construct an addition with associated site work, location 21 Winter Street, map U9, block 43, lot 0. Okay. Do we have a representative of the applicant on the call?
This is Dave Aquidant.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Marquardt.
So this is, as you stated, this is 21 Winter Street. The location of this is right next door to where they construct and service the fire trucks on Winter Street, on the Wood Street end of Winter Street. It's a small lot, consists of a septic system, 2-bedroom home. Chris is on the email, is on the call as well. His in-laws live here now currently. They're having a little problem with mobility. So we're proposing a 1-story addition on the extension of the right side of the dwelling. It's 16 by 30.5 in dimensions. It's a 1-story. It is a bedroom and a bathroom. They're no longer able to access the second floor of the main house. There's an existing stone driveway coming right off down to the right of the house with 2 retaining walls. And there's a small little grassed driveway at the top of the page against the other on the left side of the home. So the purpose is to construct the 1-story addition. The main access to the house right now is through that grass driveway. And the existing staircase at the existing driveway is going to be removed, and it's going to be sort of replaced with the same type retaining wall. So we're proposing a stone driveway at the top and the addition in the back. Wetlands are along the right-hand side of the property and along the back. We're 53 feet away with the addition to the wetlands. There has been correspondence with Board of Health. The system was installed for a 2-bedroom only back in 2004. Did receive an order to install the system. And we're going to reconfigure the house so it is only it remains as a 2-bedroom home. So the lot is very flat. And our limit of work is right along the edge of the driveway with the erosion controls, and that line there about 15 feet off the back end of the addition. Access will be along in through the driveway and at the end of the driveway, and just sort of veer up to the proposed addition.
Okay, great. Thank you for the overview. And it looks like the proposed work is within existing disturbed areas.
Yeah. Yes, the entire property is almost entirely grass. There's a stone driveway, lawn in the back. There's a section of lawn and wood chips out by the rear stone wall, and grass on the front and on the left.
Okay,
So the bushes are to the extreme left and the extreme rear of the property.
okay, great. All right, so I think I'm just taking a look at Matt's comments. One of the recommendations was that the rooftop filtration system be considered, so that the additional runoff is directly
Yeah.
infiltrated into the ground. Is that?
Yeah, we can provide recharge. We can do that. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, Matt, I think that was your only kind of substantive comment. Anything else that I missed?
Yeah, that was really it. I came across a violation on the neighboring property that will probably be a discussion for another day. Really nothing to do with this project, but yeah, really, it was really just if the applicant would consider doing the infiltration. Everything else looked good.
Okay, great.
We don't have a DEP number. Everything's been filed electronically with DEP, but we haven't seen a number yet.
Okay. Okay, I'll open up to comments, questions from the commission members.
Through the chair. So if access from the existing stone driveway is being removed, what will be in space of the stone driveway?
Nope, the stone driveway is going to remain. Access is going to be through the stone driveway. There's in between the two existing retaining walls, there's a staircase that they use to go up to the front door. They can no longer use the stairs, so the stairs are going to be removed and the wall will be put in its place, but the stone driveway is going to stay.
Okay.
Okay,
Through the chair, I have a question.
sure.
I'll admit I may have missed this. I was trying to get the plans up on my iPad. To the north, is that a proposed new driveway to the north?
Yes, stone driveway, yes.
If that's there, is there a reason to keep the southerly stone driveway?
I can't answer that. Chris is here as well. His in-laws use it. I know that they have two vehicles. The wife parks up on the grass, and that's going to be her sort of her permanent exit, leave and exit. And then the husband, the father-in-law, parks his truck in the driveway. Chris, do you have any comments to that?
We haven't, we haven't contemplated doing anything differently with the southern driveway. As Dave mentioned, the real purpose of this addition is that their mobility is limited, and the ability to go up the stairs has been a challenge. So we haven't contemplated doing anything with the second or that southern driveway, and honestly had no intention of doing anything with it other than the ability to park a car down there, but we'd be open to something.
So what I'm wondering is, and again, I'm trying to read the plan as we talk, so please correct me if I'm misstating anything. It's a sizable addition that's within the 100-foot, and I'm aware that it's previously disturbed. But with a new driveway to the north and with a walkway to the new addition, and eliminating the stairs on the southerly driveway, I wonder if some of that stone, which is kind of right next to the wetlands, can be given back to something green, even if it's just lawn, but ideally some bushes. Maybe it's hard for me to read how far the stone driveway goes toward the back of the property, but I'm wondering if some of that can be converted in exchange for additional building within the buffer zone.
So the driveway goes where the cursor is right now. That is where that retaining wall, the easterly retaining wall, that is the end of the driveway.
Okay. Anyway, that's my wonder, is if with that construction so close to the, or with the stone driveway so close to the wetlands, if any of it can be given back to something green.
So bordering south of the driveway, there is a buffer zone of bushes. There's a number of rhododendron bushes and things that are beyond my botanical talents to identify. But there is a already a kind of what green or bushes there separating the driveway from wetlands on the property line.
So the driveway there that's existing, you and your wife use that, and the intent is for the other driveway for your in-laws to
No, this is
use?
where my in-laws live. We don't live there.
Okay,
We live at 12 Andrea Drive.
okay.
Jeff?
Yes,
So just to be clear, there is a section of driveway that it does extend beyond that retaining wall. And it's about 28 feet in length. There is stone from there, from the cursor, going down, there you go, all the way down to where we have that axis arrow. That's currently stone. We call that as driveway. Maybe we could make a suggestion that we replace that 28 feet of driveway and stop the driveway right at the end of the retaining wall and restore with some sort of lawn area at a minimum, that 28-foot section of stone driveway.
That's exactly what I have in mind, but I wasn't aware of how far the driveway went. So thank you for that.
Yep. Chris,
We
is
would
that
be fine
okay?
with that. We would be
Okay.
fine with that.
Perfect.
yeah, it doesn't have to be lawn. I mean, if you want to put, turn into, a meadow or a garden or something like that, that would actually be preferable than lawn. But
Okay.
I think that seems like a reasonable,
Yep.
okay, all right, good. So if you can't submit to us a revised plan just depicting that, Mr. Markonaut,
Yes, we can.
and can you do that within the next week?
Yep, 2 weeks. I can do 2 weeks. Is that possible?
Kim, do you want to, what are your thoughts there? I know we had a discussion about this earlier today.
Yep, yeah, so 21 days would be. So probably mid,
Mid-
like the first week of July, would be the end probably of the runway there. Yeah, I would say the latest would be around like July 7th.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm thinking of somewhere around July 1, July 2, we'll have a new plan.
Yeah, we just want to make sure Kim and I were talking earlier, and this is kind of not really relevant to the discussion here, but we just want to make sure that we have ample time to get, revised plans into the office, have time for Kim to review them, make sure they're okay, and then to be able to issue the order within 21 days.
Right. Okay,
If we can get that within the next week and a half, Mr. Markonaut,
Okay.
this is a fairly minor revision to the
Yep.
plan, so I think we're good.
okay.
All right, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, if I can get a motion to close and approve the notice of intent with the condition as discussed in the submittal of a revised plan within the next week and a half.
So moved.
And second,
Second.
all right, so Jim, you made the motion?
Oh, then I'll second.
Oh, okay. All right, and we'll do the roll call vote. Janine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, great. All right, thank you, Mr. Estelle. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Claro, 0 Hayden Row. This is a continuation of request for determination, or request for reconsideration, excuse me.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. This is Matthew Watsky here.
Good evening, Mr. Watsky.
Good evening. Before we proceed, I have concerns about the high potential that we're not able to wrap this up and draw it to a conclusion tonight. And with 3 members of the commission missing, that creates a Mullen Rule problem if we try to continue to another evening. And so I request that we just continue this hearing tonight. I do have one procedural issues that I'd like to have some clarification on, but I do not wish to make a substantive presentation tonight with 3 members missing.
Okay,
Jeff,
Uh,
can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I just want to let you know I did pop back onto the meeting. if that
Okay,
makes-
Melissa,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, so if you can just submit a request to Kimberly, Mr. Waskey, requesting that continuation.
We'll do
And
that.
then what was the procedural question that you had?
Well, actually, I wasn't aware that Melissa was on board, so that gives us 5 members rather than just 4.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll give me a moment. We may reconsider that and proceed with the hearing tonight. I did have a procedural question. I was wondering whether Mr. Ciriello, who abstained in the original vote, is he eligible to vote?
Jeff, you can hear me.
That is a good question. Matt, Kim, do you have any sense on that?
Jeff, this is Jim.
Yep.
I don't know for certain, but it seems to me that since the reconsideration presents new information, that my abstaining the last time was because I hadn't attended all the hearings. I've now attended all these hearings, so I would think that I could vote on it because it's reconsideration with new information. So it's a different vote. Matt, what's your take on this?
I
If
think
I
I would,
may-
I think I would tend to agree to that, with that. I think, Jim, you had abstained before just because you had missed a meeting. It wasn't that you had a conflict or anything.
So
I guess the procedural question that I would have currently is, has the commission actually voted to reopen the hearing at this point, or has it just been a discussion of whether the
We
hearing-
did vote to reopen the hearing, Matt.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I, thinking about it here for a couple minutes, I tend to agree with, Jim and Matt. I think this is it's a new hearing. We reopened it. If, Jim has been in attendance and has been, or any member, if they've been in attendance and they're up to speed with the new information that's presented, I think they're eligible to vote on the reconsideration. That's kind of my sense.
Jeff, I'm curious what Matt Watsky thinks. Also, Matt, what's your opinion?
I'm perfectly comfortable with Mr. Ciriello voting on this. I think that he could have voted beforehand, if only missing one hearing in any event, because he's had the opportunity to become fully familiar with the site. But in any event, this is with the reconsideration hearing, all of the information has been represented. So he is, in my view, eligible to vote yes.
I would agree with that. From a layman's perspective, I'm not an attorney. But, okay, so Mr. Waskey, you want to proceed with the?
Yes.
Okay.
With that clarification, absolutely. Then we'll proceed.
Okay, great.
All right. I will very shortly hand off to Scott Goddard to take us through the revisions on the site. But you have the plan here that provides a comparison of the current footprint of the house as compared to the prior footprint that was proposed and denied. Just sort of big picture, the design of the house originally was a 3,200 square foot house that was designed as a colonial, 3,200 square feet of living space that was designed as a colonial. The current design is quite different. It's a split level that has about 1,600 square feet of living space, and although it still includes a 2-car garage, if you're familiar with split levels, the garage is kind of integral to the design of the house, and you have the rooms above it. You could have a colonial that's a larger footprint than this house. It's just a choice that the developer has made to go with a design that he thinks makes the most sense in the marketplace, even though it's a smaller footprint than one might have if one went with a colonial that didn't even have a garage. So there's been significant effort to come up with a redesign that reduces the footprint of the house, as well as reducing the footprint of the disturbed area within buffer zone that's outside of the footprint of the house, with the summary of that in the red block that you see there on the screen. And Scott Goddard will kind of walk you through that. I want to reemphasize that there is no work proposed within the 0 to 50 foot buffer zone, which is the only area under the bylaw within which there is a presumption of any disturbance or harm to the wetlands. So all of the work is more than 50 feet away from the wetlands, and the amount of the work, as well as the amount of impervious surface, has been significantly decreased as compared to the prior work. It also, with the revisions to the design, you have the house now without excavation below the groundwater, so you're not going to have the sump. You don't have the concerns that the commission had previously about that. Anyway, I'm going to hand off at this point to Scott Goddard. Go ahead and take us through the details of the plan, Scott.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So Kim, that's your screen, I think we're sharing, right? Okay, so if you're able to zoom in a little bit, that would be good. And great. There's actually, I think there's 2 sheets on this. So maybe the second sheet first we could look at. That's, so this sheet is just a reminder of the project version that was denied with the last vote of the commission. So what's outlined in purple is the limit of work line. The 100-foot buffer cuts through the middle of the house at an angular fashion. And what's in red is house, the colonial house that Attorney Watsky outlined, 2-car garage, and a paved driveway with limited lawn around the perimeter of it. So that's kind of where we left off. We had some encroachments into the buffer zone, which was the objection the commission had, the amount of buffer zone, the size of the project, etc. As a reminder, the wetlands on this site are low topographic relief wetlands that Matt and I looked at when we did the original delineation. I think that if I remember right, there's the bike path, hiking path that cuts through the wetlands just shortly off site to the rear. There's a transitional zone of wet uplands that separates the proposed work area and the buffer zone from the activity. That's filled with native vegetation and will remain in an undisturbed state. So if you go to the next sheet, I think in this case it would be the first sheet, Kim. Yep. So the changed items that we see on this reconsideration plan is, first off, there was an elevation change in the proposed project. This house was set to be close to, actually probably slightly into the groundwater table. Some additional test pits were done on the site post denial. We determined the elevation of the seasonal high groundwater table within the foundation area. And then the engineer redesigned the site to elevate the house so that there's not a foundation now setting into the groundwater table and there's now separation between the high groundwater and the house. That's a significant change. So we're not dealing with groundwater displacement, sump pumps, anything of that nature. So the house has been elevated. There's been the front now will have some grade changes to accommodate the infiltration that's proposed on the site. We do have stormwater management proposed for the roof runoff. That's the recharge system shown to the left of the house. The other thing that's been done now is Matt Watzke said that we're changing the design from a more robust colonial size house to a more modest split level style house, which will have the 2-car garage sort of partially under on that first floor. So on this plan, what you're looking at is the superimposed red lines is what the house was proposed to be at. Yeah, the shaded area, including that olive-shaped area on the lawn to the right. That was part of the, right in there. That was part of the proposed garage area. Now, what is proposed is the gray box. So you see the driveway, right there, comes into the house, hits it in the front. That's all out of the buffer zone. So the driveway is now entirely out of the buffer zone. The garage entry isn't out of the buffer zone, and the back portion of the garage will be slightly within the buffer zone. So we just have now a smaller gray outlined box, which is the house footprint. The area to the right that is outlined in red is the old or former limit of work line. So what we've been able to do is take that right edge and slide it slightly to the left.
That's right.
About 10 or so feet in order to shrink the house, shrink the yard, slide the driveway over, and pull that additional work out of the buffer zone. The lawn has been reduced from the previous lawn situation by about 370 square feet. There's about 660 square feet of total buffer zone reduction. There's a reduction in impervious surface. There's a reduction in the overall house footprint, all in the buffer zone. And there's the addition of the elevating the house to outside of the groundwater table. The house does, as a reminder, sit as far forward and as far left as the lot can support based on zoning considerations. And the applicant believes this is the smallest house that can equitably be placed on this piece of property for development with the most limited amount of area around the yard. Therefore, the buffer zone incursion is minimized even beyond what we were at prior to with this commission. So this is the plan for reconsideration. And I would just add a couple of notes when considering the impacts to the buffer zone. In my review of the site, the buffer zone lacked any significant or notable wildlife habitat features, which are a consideration for this Conservation Commission when considering buffer zone incursion. And in order to preserve the limit of work boundaries, a post and rail fence PIB is proposed at the limit of work, which is also an item stated in your bylaw and regulations that can be a condition when work is proposed in the buffer zone. So with that, I'll put it back to the commission. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Okay, Matt, did you have any comments? Kim?
Through the chair, I do want to just note that we received this plan about an hour or an hour and a half ago. So I'm not sure if Matt had a time to absorb.
Mhm.
So Kim, I wasn't sure, did Bob Poxon from Gurrier and Hellman, who's the engineer, did he send this to you earlier? I thought perhaps, because this isn't even a cleaned up plan, this is just an overlay display. I have a cleaned up version of this it's dated June 9th revision date. Was that sent to you by chance earlier?
Yeah, but
No?
we had thought that the actual plan had been sent in. This plan was for display purposes to help illustrate the changes.
Unfortunately, I wasn't in receipt of the plan.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah, this is the first I've seen of this plan was basically this presentation.
okay. No, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I think, we'll just need some time for Kim, Matt, and the other commission members to kind of absorb this, take a look at it, and think about it. But let me open it up to kind of initial thoughts from commission members on what's been presented.
Jeff, this is Jim.
Yes, Jim.
I guess notwithstanding our opportunity to review this in more detail, I can just say that I think the applicant has done everything they can possibly do for the resource area. So we can look at it, but I would be inclined to approve this.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Any other preliminary thoughts, comments from commission members?
Yeah, Jeff, through the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Ted.
I would also very much like to have more of a chance to look at it. Through a lot of that presentation, I was madly going through the stuff that was sent to us, trying to find the version of the plan so that I could look at it on my own iPad. But I will say, I echo Jim in saying I am very appreciative of a fairly substantial rethinking of this project. And so I thank the developer for that, but I also think it sends a message to other developers that may come before us who say, this is all I can do. This is all I can work with. This developer is showing us that even when we heard those protestations, no, there is another way to think about it. And I think that there's an important lesson to future Concom applicants going forward. But again, before I voice my final approval, I would like to have more time to look at it on my own.
Okay, thank you, Ted. And I also just want to echo what Ted and Jim said. We appreciate with you guys kind of going back to the drawing board on this, and it looks like you put a lot of effort into rethinking the layout here and what you could do to minimize the buffer zone disturbance. So we do appreciate that. Okay. So do we have comments, questions from the public on this? All right, it doesn't look like it. So we'll continue this out to our next meeting, which is July 13th. And Mr. Goddard or Mr. Watsky, if you can just please send Kim that request via email for the continuation.
We will do that. And Jeff, I'll also make sure that you get a copy of the stamped plan that's just clean with the current proposal in hand, well in advance of that meeting. I'll try to get it to you within the next day or two through Gurrier and Hellman. It's also worth noting that DEP did schedule a site walk on this matter too. So that will happen between now and the next meeting. And then we can, I guess, figure out how to deal administratively going forward on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. From a procedural standpoint, this request for reconsideration was, under the bylaw and not the act, right? So, procedurally, we just need to think about, how we tie those two out with this going forward.
We'll put some thought into that.
Yeah, just so we're prepared for the next meeting, okay. All right, great.
But just for clarification, I'm not sure I heard the date. Did you say July 13th?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you, folks. Have a good evening.
Do you need something in writing from us assenting to the continuance, or is orally sufficient?
If you can just shoot an email to Kim?
I'll make a note to do that tomorrow.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, Mass Laborers Training. This is a notice of intent for, it's a continuation of a notice of intent for utility installation. Mr. Connors, do we have you on the call?
Yes, you do.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You want to give us an overview?
Sure. This is one of several notices filed by the laborers. This one in particular deals with utilities that are used to upgrade the site's septic system. And well, there's a new well that has been drilled on the property up behind Laurel Canyon Road. And there is a new septic system that's been approved for installation for all of the various buildings. Currently, or in the recent past, each building had its own well and septic system in close proximity to the buildings. And as time went on from the original installations, the radiuses for well and septic system separations as public water supplies, and this is a transient public water supply, made them in violation of the public water supply requirements. So we put in a single well to service the facility, and we are putting in a single septic system for the entire facility. Each one requires distribution of utilities throughout the site. The site is transected by Cold Springs Brook and the rather wide wetland complex that it contains from North Mill Street right straight through to Clinton Street. And we have only one location that we have an area to minimize our installation, and that is at a culvert just below a fire pond, just below the Arthur E. Koya building. See that on the screen in the shaded location. So if we come down a little bit, Kim, and we go to where there is a culvert coming under, yeah, right, a little back there, back. There's a double box culvert right there that carries the complete wetland system from below that through the canal that goes over and ultimately discharges towards the Ashland Reservoir watershed. That culvert is a double box culvert. And what we want to do is cross underneath that with the utilities, including some electrical and communications at the same time. We come basically down the gravel road for the electrical. We come off the gravel road a little bit for the water. That's the line with all the W's. And then the more heavy line with the angles in it, below that is the sewer line that comes in from the 37 East Street and other properties to the leach field on the left, just you see the part of it. The review letter required us to change some of the erosion controls. We've done that. There was we call it behaviorals, we've changed that. And then they asked for some numerical descriptions on the disturbances. Before going into those numbers, and I'm not sure that they really make any difference, but basically the area of the gravel driveway has been in existence for many years. And the area where the water and the sewer goes through has been an open field. It had euonymus shrubs, big heavy euonymus shrubs, which were invasive colonizers, and they're being removed for this. So the areas that are being disturbed are only temporary disturbances for these utilities, and they will be restored to what they're listing. Now, the utilities are going to be installed by cut and cover trench up until and close proximity to the culvert. Then they will be drilled under the culvert by directional drilling. And there was a request for some information on directional drilling. I'm going to see if I can explain that in a cogent manner here. Directional drilling is nothing different than drilling a well, but only horizontally. And what they will do is to the right of the culvert, they will dig a pit and set up a machine that will drive a 4-inch bit through the soil and down underneath the culvert and come up on the other side. And before they do that, they'll go out with ground penetrating radar and they'll run it over each of the locations that we've shown to get the stratigraphy of the soil beneath it and identify any potential anomalies such as rocks or big boulders to decide how and what kind of drill bit that they will use. This is generally a sand and gravel deposit from the glacial era. And we believe that all of our excavations out there have found various layers of sands and gravel. So we'll be looking for a adhesive layer that goes through there that we can drill the pilot holes. Once the pilot holes go through, they are then pulled back by a reamer that will widen them for the appropriate size of the pipeline that will go inside the sleeve. And that is a procedure that really just takes a very short period of time. It's used for utilities, even crossing streets and things in the suburbs here. Particularly useful for this particular application where we have a culvert and we really don't want to dig under it and dewater. This pipeline can go through in the water saturated soil and not really disturb anything. So they'll start on the higher end as you come down from a driveway, the gravel driveway, just at the point where it changes from pavement as it leads into the back of the Koya building. And they'll drill through those soils, the 3 different boreholes, and then pull back and install the 3 different sleeves, sewer, water, and electric communications. Hope that's a significant description of it. It is dependent upon what the contractor finds from his ground penetrating radar testing, and then his choice of equipment. In terms of monitoring that, we're certainly happy to be part of it and have the town be part of that as we choose the equipment and the location. But to spec out exactly how that goes until we have the stratigraphy is really impossible. So that can be a condition, and I hope that answers the questions. In terms of the disturbances, they're all going to be returned to the existing ground conditions that are there, to wit, some gravel roadway and grassed pasture type land. And I'm happy to respond to questions or comments at this stage.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Connors. So how much, linear footage do you expect to drill with the directional drilling?
My hope would be less than 200 feet. And the reason for that is I want to start a little bit high on the hill coming down. That's on the right-hand side of the culvert. Because our pit, our directional drilling pit, will be above water table and come out a little bit down beyond the culverts, probably about where the break in the angles of the pipes are. We're very close there too. So I would like that to be about 200 feet. And at that location where it comes out, we are fairly flat ground and not too terribly high above water. So that receiving pit would only be about 4 feet deep.
Okay. And then what's the plan for the management of the drill cuttings?
Those are contained in a drum type system. The cuttings go in and they can be either recycled and used again for the drilling fluid, or they can be completely disposed of off-site. Part of that is going to be dependent on the type of soil that they encounter. I
Okay,
believe it's
and
going to be
then-
sandy gravel.
Yeah, and then, okay. And then in terms of the drill, the fluids generated, how will that be managed?
They're all captured.
They're all captured and then disposed off-site?
Yes. Yeah, there'll be no disposal of any drilling fluids on site at all.
Okay. And I saw you had provided a response to Matt's questions that he had in his June 8th, 2021 memo. Matt, did you have any comments or follow-up questions?
Yeah, so the reason why I had sort of asked for the breakdown of which areas were within existing driveways and were essentially exempt from riverfront area regulations and which were outside of those and not exempt was really to determine, sort of what level of review and sort of what's being, which performance standards need to be applied to it. And this gets a little bit tricky. I talked to some of my colleagues within our firm to try and get a handle on this because it's one of these where you're, working, as Mr. Connors said, working within sort of these lawn disturbed areas that certainly don't provide a lot of value at this point. But again, reading sort of the letter of the law and the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and the standards for riverfront area, that there's an upper limit of 5,000 square feet, and you have to do an alternatives analysis and demonstrate no adverse impact. Unless the project could qualify as a limited project, and I don't know if Mr. Connors can speak to that, if these utilities are considered public utilities or private utilities, there's potentially a different, sort of a subtle difference there in how you might permit it. Again, sort of what the commission's level of comfort is in sort of applying that 5,000 square foot limit where it's essentially a temporary impact because the utilities go underground and it just goes back to the way it was. So there's sort of a few questions that, unfortunately, the way the regulations are written, there are these holes that appear on occasion that the commission is sort of forced into filling in with their own opinions. So I guess the first question maybe for Mr. Connors would be sort of that public versus private utilities question, because I think that would, if they were public utilities, then I would, in my opinion, recommend that this work be proposed as a limited project, and it kind of does a bit of an end around the regulations.
Well, we're public water supply. Because we have a certain amount of people, more than 25 for more than whatever the days are, I can't remember that. But at the school, they teach laborers and they have many at the facility from basically from time to time. And indeed, the water wells that were there are regulated as public water supplies. And because of the proximity to the existing small septic systems at each building, we chose to make it a single source and follow up with meeting the current regulations for public water supplies. So I would say that it would fall under the panoply of a public utility where it does, serve the public. The 310 CMR 10022B2I says that it has to be in the driveways. And you're correct about that. The alternative is to put all three of these in that small 12-foot wide driveway and say we're in compliance. But where everything has been disturbed in that area, we thought it best to keep them further apart. So if indeed, at some point in time, there was a repair, it could be more easily made without impacting other utilities. And that's consideration for us. The second thing is there really isn't any significant adverse impact. And the river protection under 1058 says that if there's no significant adverse impact, and I can't see that there is, especially with the extent of going to the direction of drilling, that these really be approved. And the amount of disturbance, I think that's an incorrect word. Disturbance is when you change something that's really riverfront. We're not, and the disturbance is going to be replaced, so it's a temporary disturbance. So I hope that is something that we can consider.
Thank you, Mr. Connors. So I guess I would just throw those back to the commission that, I think there are options where it sounds like the applicant could submit something that says they're proposing it as a limited project because these qualify as public utilities, and therefore the standards don't have to be met. Just need to be met to the extent practicable. All the utilities sound like could be concentrated within the existing gravel or paved pathways. Again, that would then make them all exempt, and you'd sort of be out of applying the strict reading of the regulations by doing it that way. Or I think the commission can just, sort of write their opinion that says, based on what the existing conditions are, there's no adverse impact. And that all alternatives have been exhausted to minimize impacts. So I don't have what's the best answer for that. I'm just kind of throwing out options based on my understanding and experience with the regulations. And unfortunately, it's up to you guys to make the final call. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, thank you for that background, Matt, and for your explanation there, Mr. Connors. I agree. I mean, if we can look at this as a limited project due to the public utility, the public water supply aspect, I think I'm good with that. And, in terms of the disturbance, I also tend to, agree with Mr. Connors. I mean, the directional drilling is certainly beneficial because you're not in the resource area, you're drilling below it. So there's not disturbance there. And then in terms of the cut and fill, methodology for putting the utilities in, I would agree. I think, and it's already disturbed, right? A lot of it's paved. So that's kind of my sense. But I will open it up to the other commission members for their comments and opinion.
Hi, Jeff, through the chair.
Yes, Ted.
Mr. Connors, thank you for the site walk back in, was it April? And I can picture where this causeway is. I can picture all of it. So thank you for that. My comment is, generally speaking, I don't see any problem with the proposal for the utilities. But I think I've been consistent in this with other hearings. I'm not generally in favor of allowing work within buffer zones unless we know for sure the whole rest of the project is approved. I assume these utilities are necessary for the rest of the project. And while I don't see much that scares me about this proposal, I would prefer to wait until we approve everything else before allowing this work.
I'd like to respond to that.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Connors.
As I indicated, the existing septic systems and wells, although they can remain individual for each building, are a public water supply, and they violate regulations, but they're pre-existing non-conforming. So moving the water supply to a single location that doesn't impact anybody is something that benefits the entire site existing as it stands. Part of the water system in the dormitory building is about 35 years old. It can contains various pumps for not only domestic, but for fire protection. And those pumps need to be replaced. And it is part of our consideration that some of those pumps really would be best replaced with a brand new water system, depending on its availability for delivery of water. Next are the septic systems that are out on the existing buildings. They have been designed and some of them have been redesigned over the years in terms of the Koya building, which is the oldest on the site. That has been replaced once, and the other buildings are probably near the 25 or so year that we expect septic systems to last. So either way, whether the buildings, the new buildings go forward or not, these improvements are necessary for the existing systems. And as you know, there's the Koya building, the Conti building, the Maloney building, and some small garage at the top of the hill where they have repairs for their vehicles. So it's a standalone utility installation, as well as be able to accommodate additional buildings. I will note that there is no additional flow. There are no additional capacities for people to come to the site. It's a 10,000, just less than 10,000 gallon system septic and well, and DEP has approved that. People move from building to building and take different courses in different buildings. So there's really no increase in population. I hope that is helpful.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Connors.
Okay, any other questions or comments from commission members? Do we have questions or comments from the public? And feel free to raise your hand or speak out now. Okay. So I think we just need, there's a couple conditions on this one, Mr. Connors. We just need you to provide a narrative of, how the cuttings and drilling fluids will be managed and disposed. So when they're looking at the stratigraphy for the directional drilling, is that done? Is that like they make the call as they're doing the work, or do they come in with like a geophysical survey prior to doing that? Or how does that work? I'm sorry.
Yeah, they'll come in with the ground penetrating radar machine and they'll drag it along the paths that they're intending. And they'll map out that right in real time. A day or two later, they'll plot out all that information and then decide which routes each pipeline will go and what depths. They will then set that up as a CAD drawing. And then when they go to install the pipelines and do the drilling, they'll have a magnetic direction machine over where the drill bit is. And they walk that along the drill bit as it progresses to have that drill bit be at.
So it guides it essentially?
Guides it, exactly.
Okay.
So it's a kind of a setup and design build thing, if that's the right term, at the time. And I'm happy to deal with the town or the consultants or Kimberly at the time we do the mapping.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I was going to suggest, when they do the GPR survey, they're going to put a report together, right? Before they actually go out and do the work, I would imagine.
Yeah, they'll map it. It's not going to be a report. It's going to be in like a handheld computer type thing, and this moves right along once they get the GPR completed. So in a day or so, they'll be ready to drill.
Okay. Yeah, I think condition, I'm thinking off the top of my head here, Kim, Matt, feel free to jump in, would be that, when they do the GPR survey, that you notify, the commission office, so that we just have a chance to take a look at, what's being generated, what the, how it's going to potentially affect, the amount of drilling that's going to be performed, whether it's going to be 200 feet or 400 feet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Just so, we,
Have control over it.
so, yeah, so we have control over it and we know what, what the scope of the work is, associated with the directional drilling.
When we do it with DOT, that's the same sort of thing.
Okay.
To the
Okay.
chair?
Yes, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's all part of it. The other things I think are potentially even more critical are, as part of this sort of preliminary review that's done before the work starts, is, are they getting into any groundwater in the pits that they have to dig, and is any dewatering required, and how is that being handled? And also just, are there any concerns about the structural capacity of the culverts themselves when the drill is going underneath? How close is it coming? Are there any concerns of the culvert? Obviously, the whole point of doing the directional drilling is so that the culvert isn't disturbed, but things happen. So I think sort of having just really kind of a holistic response from the contractor that really describes to staff sort of how it's working, how it's coming together. Is there anything unexpected? Just so there aren't any surprises that might cause an issue.
Yeah, I think that's a good request. We just want to make sure contingencies are in place so that when they're out on site, they're not making a field call and things aren't getting done sloppily, they kind of thought through it prior. So that, fluids, groundwater, dewatering are all managed appropriately. Mr. Connors, does that make sense?
Yeah, I will tell you that the laborers are going to do it right. Their facility is beautiful.
Okay. Okay. That's all I can think of. I think we're ready to vote on this, Kim, unless you or Matt, if you have any other outstanding items that need to be addressed.
Through the chair, I'm not sure if you want to have the applicant resubmit the notice of intent, identifying themselves as a limited, requesting approval under a limited project.
Yes. Yep. I think that, Mr. Connors, does that make sense?
Will that hold up the issuance of the order?
Yeah, I think we would need to get that, and we, yes. So I think my sense is we would wait for that revision to come in, just make sure administratively it's in order, and then we could vote on it at the next meeting.
You wouldn't be able to determine under the filing that there's no significant adverse impact under 1058. It seems to be ceremony over substance at this stage.
Through
the chair?
Yes, Kim.
I would encourage the applicant to submit a very basic alternatives analysis, if that was kind of the route that the commission wanted to go, because I believe what I'm hearing is that the commission would be amendable to determining that there was no, adverse impact, but that, they just need the appropriate paper and background to hold the decision up with the DEP as well, so that DEP doesn't, take a look at it and try to overturn it.
Yeah,
I can give you alternatives tomorrow. It says cut and cover versus directional drilling, and yeah, I can do that. I hope we can close the hearing based on receipt of that. Would that be all right?
I mean, the application needs to be revised as well, right, Kim? If, you know, if we're looking at it as a limited project.
It could be either or. It seems like
Right.
the applicant could either present that they've overcome the presumption of significance under 1058, or they could file as a limited project, and then the exceedance of the riverfront area performance standard would be grandfathered because it's a limited project. So it's kind of an either or.
I think through the chair, I guess my only concern of something that could catch DEP's eye again is the 5,000 square foot number that it appears would be, you know, and I don't know, I'm not sure what if the 10% was more. I presume the 10% was more, so maybe they're within that number. But you know, demonstrating that number, and if that number is exceeded, that could be something that DEP looks at and says, "Well, hang on a second. You know, is that decision proper or not?"
The 10% is about 150,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, then I think that's the type of information that
It's in there. It's in the original notice or letter. But anyway,
okay.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's in the original notice?
Yeah, page 3 of my submission, my narrative. Yeah. It went accompanied all of the notices.
Okay. Kim, are you comfortable with that? Vote on it subject to the applicant providing the, you know, supplemental information the next couple of days?
Yeah, if it's the will of the commission. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Is everyone else on the commission comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if I get a motion to close and approve the mass laborers training notice of intent for the utilities site DEP number 1881739, subject to the submittal of the supplemental information as discussed.
So move.
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Okay, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. And then I'm just going to need, we don't meet for another 3 weeks. I'm going to make a second motion that Kim drafts the order of conditions and issues those on behalf of the commission that's present here tonight, and that she's authorized to sign that on our behalf. So if I can get that motion, that way there we don't exceed the 21-day period to issue the order.
So
And a second.
Second, Ted.
Yeah, okay, we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Connors.
Just one more thing on the upcoming ones. If anybody wants to do another site walk, please let me know and I'd be happy to accommodate that for the other buildings.
Okay,
May or may not, I don't know. Just let me know.
great. I'll reach out to the commission members, and, you know, if we do, we'll let you know. Okay?
Thank you very much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate
Have a good
everything.
evening.
Night, thank you.
Okay.
Jeff, I'll just
Yes.
throw out, I found the site walk really helpful for me to be able to picture the scope of the project.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ted. If anyone else is interested, just shoot me an email, and I'll try to coordinate it with Mr. Connors. All right. So back to the work session items. So the delegation of signature authority and authorizing the electronic signature. So we have Kim on board now. And I think it makes sense for us to authorize her to sign on the commission's behalf. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And Kim, you're okay with that presumably?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if I can get a motion that the Hopkinton Conservation Commission authorize Conservation Administrator Kim Sierra McCauley to physically sign on behalf of the commission when so directed by the vote of the commission, documents issued by the commission under the Wetlands Protection Act and or the Hopkinton's Wetland Protection Bylaw, including but not limited to orders of conditions and certificates of compliance.
I'll make that.
So moved.
And,
You take it, Ted. I'll second.
okay, and Melissa, the roll call vote.
aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. And I'll need a second motion that the Hopkinton Conservation Commission recognizes and accepts the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapters 110G regarding electronic signatures for permitting and compliance documents, and that its members will henceforth execute such documents either with electronic signatures or with wet ink signatures, and both will carry the same legal weight and effect. The statement applies to permitting and compliance documents issued by the Commission under the Wetlands Protection and or the Hopkinton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, including but not limited to orders of conditions and certificates of compliance.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Okay. Not really sure it was necessary for the second motion. I think we already did that at one point, but it's okay. It's not gonna be detrimental. It's just, that'll be a redundant motion, so, okay. All right. Discussion about remote meetings versus in-person meetings. So as you know, the governor extended the remote meeting executive order in the amended bill. So it allows boards and committees to conduct meetings either remotely through April 2022, I think it was, or the meetings can be held in person. What I was going to suggest, and I want to just throw this out there for everyone, is that we continue with the remote meetings for July and August, and then we look to, you know, September, the beginning of fall, to go back to in-person meetings. But that was just a thought, and I just wanted to open that up to everyone for their
I like that thought,
opinions.
bringing it back up in the fall.
I'm sorry, Janine, what was that?
I like that suggestion of keeping it the way it is for now, and then going back, considering going back in person in fall or September.
Okay, yeah, and we can, I mean, it's not set in stone, so, you know, at the end of August, we can think about it and, if we want to, we can continue doing the remote meetings or we can do it in person.
So is it all or nothing? Like they have to either be remote or be in person, or could they be in person with also remote?
You can do it. My understanding is that you can do a hybrid. So some people are in person while some people can be remote. But the problem is with the technology to implement that the town has, it's just not really feasible to do it, and to have like HCAM record it. And it's just, it's very difficult to implement.
Yeah, it's a good point. It would be hard for Kim to show the documents to the people who are remote and also try to handle things at the meeting live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my sense would be, we do either or, not the hybrid.
Jeff, do you know if the town is looking into that ability at all or not? I mean, I've been involved in some of those that have been hybrid. Obviously they can be nice sometimes when people would otherwise have to miss a meeting. But it's the juggle too. I've seen like it wouldn't be Kim, I don't think, running everything. You'd have to kind of split that workload up between multiple people. So somebody's focused on, the Zoom and that not being Kim, and you know what I mean? You'd have to divvy it up. But I was just curious I'm sure there's probably been discussions in town. I don't know if we know anything about them as to whether they move in that direction. Because I think regardless of COVID, it's something that, people are moving towards. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Some people might not be comfortable coming in, to a public meeting setting that's in person. Yeah, I don't know, Anna, Kim, have you heard anything? I know you haven't been there that long, Kim, but have you guys heard any kind of internal discussions
Jeff, can I interrupt really, really quickly, please?
Sure.
Miss Johnson is wondering if we are going to be hearing her. She's in the public forum section, and I just want to be sure that we still have that coming up. Is that true?
Yeah.
Forum request, an informal discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to give her that assurance. I typed to her in the chat, and then somebody else wrote no more hearings tonight. So I wanted to clarify.
Yep.
All right. Sorry to sidetrack us, but I wanted to reassure her.
Okay, great. And that was actually me that wrote that there's no more hearings tonight. So I apologize for that oversight. But yes, we do have a public forum request. So, but anyways, Kim, Anna, have you heard anything from the town on whether that's being considered or?
Through the chair, Jeff. So what I have heard is that the town is making moves towards doing the hybrid meeting things. But that currently it requires 2 IT staff people to kind of get the meetings going and run the meetings. And that level of staffing is not always currently available. And I think sometimes different meetings get different priorities. So the message is kind of that the staffing is going to be difficult right now. But I know that and Anna, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that, they are looking into ways to make it easier moving forward.
Okay, Jeff.
Other boards have tried it and it's been difficult. And again, if there's conflicting meetings, as Kim said, that there's, priority given to certain boards and committees. So they are trying to figure out different ways, but then there's also different rules and regs about, having, a certain amount of members have to be physically present. So I believe that you have to have a quorum physically present as well. So.
Yeah, Anna, that's my understanding. Actually, I should have prepared for this. My wife's trying to answer the same question with Barnstable. So they're trying to answer the same question. My understanding, Anna, the same thing. You have to have If you do hybrid, you have to have a quorum in person. So that's that's my understanding right now.
And do we know, because we had previously been meeting in the senior center, is there any restrictions on using that right now or in September? Or would we have to look for something else? I don't know how sensitive they are with having, people in and out and cleaning and whatnot.
We have to take a ballroom dancing class.
Through the chair, I had reached out to them regarding tonight's meeting when the order had not been accepted. And we were told it was not available, but that has since changed. And we were told that it does need, if somebody else requests the room before us, then, we're out of luck, but the building is open and will be available for meetings if needed.
Okay.
You have to take a ballroom dancing class, or you have to be part of the bingo club. I hear.
Hey, if it was part of the bocce club, I'd be all right.
Okay.
Or the cribbage club.
All right. So I think it sounds like everyone's in agreement that we can continue, or that, it makes sense to continue with the virtual meetings for the next couple months, and then we can kind of, reevaluate it come the end of August. Maybe go back in person in the fall. And we can, we'll evaluate it at some point in August. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right, so the public forum request, Kim, so this was Erica Drive, a tree removal request.
Yes, so Ms. Johnson had reached out to me and she requested removal of 7 trees at her property at 14 Erica Drive. You're looking at the map geo here. There are mapped wetlands kind of in the back corner of the pork chop shaped lot. Matt was able to get out there and take a look at the 7 trees requested. The short takeaway is that one of the trees was outside of the buffer zone. So it's outside of the jurisdiction. 2 of the trees were found to be compromised or already severely leaning. And so I've subsequently issued a exemption for Ms. Johnson to be able to take those kind of danger trees down right away. And so in question tonight is the 4 remaining trees, which our conservation scientist, Matt, found or recommended to be healthy, with the caveat of obviously that he is not a certified arborist. And that's kind of where we are at.
Okay,
Can I step in and explain where it came from?
sure.
So first of all, Kimberly, thank you for all your emails. I realized I was quite a pain in the neck with the constant, and you really helped me know what it was that we needed to submit and everything. But we had in our backyard last winter, there were 3 other trees that had toppled, right? So we had seen one of them, the roots are so tall, they're over 10 feet tall. So these are not like little trees that are going down. So we called in American Climbers and asked them, is there any other trees that we need to be worried about? And these are the trees that they recommended. So the one that you saw, that one's kind of down already. It's that one that you're seeing right now. There's another one that's rotted away. But there's 2 pine trees that we're particularly worried about because they are what they call lollipops, that they have nothing on the bottom and all the stuff is at the top. And whenever there's a windstorm, they move like crazy. And if they were to fall towards the house, they're close enough that they would do significant damage. So those were the ones, again, we didn't pick them out. The arborist did and said, these are the ones that we would remove. That's the one that's rotted that you're looking at right now. That's an obvious one. The other ones are more that when we look at them, they feel like they're practically touching the house, leaning towards the house. And when the windstorm comes in, they make me very nervous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So just let me throw this out there. Would you be amenable, with the kind of the healthy trees that you want to remove just because of the potential danger to the structure? Typically what we ask is that you plant something else to replace it that's, smaller in size.
Yeah.
As kind of a mitigation for the removal of the tree.
Absolutely.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that would be actually nice because it keeps the barrier, right? Keeps the privacy issue. So I would absolutely be in favor of that.
Okay. So that's typically what we request. And let me just open it up to the other commission members for your comments.
Hi, Jeff, through the chair. I'm looking at what I think is a satellite view with blue check marks indicating trees, I think is what that is. And I'm not sure which trees go with which of Matt's comments, but there does seem to be a check mark right close to the road, far away from the house.
Yeah,
is that one of the trees that Matt identified as problematic, or is that outside of the buffer?
That's outside the buffer.
Okay.
So that one was one that not within the jurisdiction. So that one we could remove.
So the other 4 check marks are the ones left after Matt gave a thumbs up to removing 2?
Yeah, if I could look at the map again, I could see what you're talking about. But yes, those are the ones. And particularly the one that worries me is the second one down. That one is, again, totally straight. And then they have the pine at the top. So when the wind moves, there's nothing that's holding it in place. And the one that fell down already is directly in front of it, falling towards the other. So it's 3/4 of the way down. Not that.
Yeah, the one that was at a slant there.
Is that a slant? Yeah, that one. So the one right behind it is one of the ones that they said should be removed. And then where that one ends up is on the driveway when it falls, and the second one is right next to that.
Okay.
And again, they're a couple 100 feet tall.
Yep, big trees, bigger than they look in the pictures.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from commission members? All right, so I think you're all set. You can contact the conservation office, either Kim or, if you can reach out to Kim, Kim and Matt can suggest other substitutes that you can put in replacement of those.
Okay.
They can make some recommendations, or if you have something that you're thinking about, you can just run it by them to make sure that, it's not something that's invasive or, is going to do damage to, the house in 15 or 20 years, that you're not going to have the same problem, right?
Right.
Appreciative, thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it's a project exemption request or minor project exemption, so we don't need to vote on it. But, okay, thank you,
Great.
folks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good evening. Okay. And I think that was the only public forum request, correct, Kim?
Yep.
Through the chair,
Yes, Anna.
could we go back and authorize signature pages for the RDA and 21 Winter Street?
Yes, yeah, we did make a motion to that effect.
I believe we closed the hearing, but I don't believe that you guys voted to issue the documents, because typically we would do that at the following meeting, but we're not meeting for 3 weeks. So you did it
Okay.
for Cornerstone, but
Oh, we did it for Cornerstone, but I didn't do it for Ristow
or the RDA.
or the RDA. Okay, so if I can get a motion to have Kim prepare the order of conditions for the notice of intent and the negative determination of applicability for the Hopkinton Historical Commission, and then to have Anna sign off on the commission's behalf for members that are present here tonight.
So moved.
And a second.
Second, Ted.
All right, and we'll do the roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. Good catch, Anna. Thank you. Okay, anything else tonight, folks? All right, if I get a motion to adjourn the meeting
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
All right, Melissa,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
and Jeff is an aye. All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Good night. Thank you, Kim.
Good 4th of July.